How's everyone doing? Welcome back to another episode of the Banker Next Door. I'm your host, Dr. Joe Berquist. So today I wanted to look at the increasing threat of cybersecurity and basically asking the question, when you get hit with these different cyber threats, does your bank have an incident response plan? And so we're going to take a look at an article here from Independent Banker magazine titled Tackling Familiar Cyber Threats with Smarter Tools. Cyber attack methods remain the same, but they're being supercharged by AI and other technological capabilities. Learn how your community bank can fight back using tools and education that are evolving too. So now it gets into a couple different things, like the average expense of a data breach is $4.88 million, and that's from IBM. That is a huge cost. The average expense of a data breach, 4.88 million. Now it gets into so they kind of start off talking about a typical community bank dealing with some different stuff, and then they get into the classic scams abound, and talking, the typical stuff: ransomware, phishing attacks, business email compromise, and then it has another tidbit here. 66% of U.S. consumers would not trust a company that has a data breach. So again, yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff, but it's also kind of tough because a lot of the companies out there, a lot of the especially bigger companies that have these data breaches, they don't tell you about the data breach until 6 months, 8 months, down the road, until all the damage is done. And basically at that point, there's really nothing you could do about it. And you just throw your hands up and you're like, yeah, okay, whatever. And so it gets very frustrating, I think, from a consumer perspective around a lot of this stuff. But anyway, so like I said, so you have this ransomware, phishing attacks, business email compromise is a very interesting one, BEC. So this is where basically a hacker would come in, take control of your email. Now, what's interesting about business email compromise is that they may not do anything for a long time. They may just sit there and just watch your emails. They're going to watch. They're going to figure out who are the people that you email most of the time. They're going to try to identify different people in the company, what their roles are, what they do, like the people that you might ask to do wire transfers, the people that you would ask to move money around. That's what they're going to key in on. With business email compromise. So it's very tricky. And they kind of learn, how you talk. They learn your dialogue and your lingo, so that when they eventually get to that point where they're going to try to execute their fraud plan, they can write a pretty compelling email that, somebody at first glance might be like, oh, okay, this is just another email from Roger asking me to transfer money from here to there. So again, it could get real instance, but then the question comes up, like, okay, you get hit with these things. Do you have a cyber incident response plan? So community banks should have an incident response plan and then run through what they would do in the case of a breach, a natural disaster, or anything else that might interrupt business operations, says Mike Mansky, director of cybersecurity consulting at West Monroe, a global business and technology consulting firm. Do you have the right action plan in place? Have you tested it? Have you done tabletop exercises? What is the business continuity planning? He says, putting those plans in place and then making sure those plans work does become very helpful when there is an incident. Not only business continuity planning, but business disaster recovery plan as well. Plan updates and testing need to be ongoing because attacks, software, and people change. Sometimes it's overlooked because they've been done in the past, but continuing to mature capabilities is a key component of such exercises, Mansky says. So community bankers can stay up to date on current threats by speaking to their peers to see what they're facing, as well as learning about evolving risks through ICBA's Cyber and Data Security page and FSISAC's weekly risk summary reports. Definitely some great information there. And I would say that, these are kind of things that you have to be very proactive with this. And I think every year you need to be doing tabletop exercises. You need to be looking at these plans every year, reviewing them. Do you need to make updates? You need to make changes. And again, if you don't, that's fine, but you need to be looking at them every year. And I think that, your IT people, your chief information officer, they should definitely be doing some of these tabletop exercises. They should probably be maybe trying to work with other banks sometimes when doing these exercises, or maybe attending some conferences that run these type of exercises, so that you, again, because again, I think that it's one of those things where, the more practice that you have, it's like taking a self-defense course. The more times you practice things, the more you're just, you're instantly ready to take it on once it hits. It's almost like it's just like muscle memory kicking in. So which is great. So and then the article gets into basically tools to stop online and offline fraud. So while the basic schemes are the same, technology is helping the bad actors get better at them. With generative AI, there are no more misspellings, says Mansky. There are deep fakes. All of this stuff makes it a lot harder for someone to pick up that it's fake. AI isn't just being used by the bad guys, though. Attackers might be using it to get faster and evolve and adapt, but cybersecurity professionals are also using it to bolster their defenses. While each bank might not be building AI-enabled protections from the ground up, you want to be a fast follower, Mansky says. So, and then there's a little sidebar here. 44% of U.S. consumers attribute data breach events to a company's inability to take proper security measures. It's interesting. Sometimes that's true. Sometimes it's not. Community banks are doing just that, whether it's through partnering with new vendors or working with vendors they already have. Threat detection and real-time software monitoring continue to be powerful tools in identifying fraud attempts, says Terry Luttrell, Compliance and Engagement Director at banking software company Abrigo. Abrigo is a great company, by the way. Love those guys. They do a lot of really great stuff over there. If you've never checked them out, I highly recommend go check them out. A tool's built-in AI will flag something it sees trying to break into the system, odd patterns of employee behavior, or changes from how a customer normally banks. The software can then let a security team member know something is potentially off, and they can act accordingly. These detection tools can also alert community bankers when a customer is potentially being scammed, whether that's by a romance scams or pig butchering scams, where fraudsters gain trust with victims over time, then lead them to investing in fake cryptocurrency assets or other fake opportunities. Software can look for those unusual banking patterns, such as when someone who has never sent a wire transfer suddenly does so. While a banker can't stop someone from sending the money, detecting these kinds of patterns is an opportunity to reach out to the customer and, when appropriate, share resources from law enforcement about such scams. And then it gets into, maintaining the in-person touch. So coupling all these tools with preventative education can stop fraud before it even needs to be detected. And then it gives a bank example on this. I talk with a number of customers who say, what could they possibly want with me here in rural America? But people have social security numbers, personal information, a credit file, which would be of interest to someone. And these panels and sessions let customers know that. And then another sidebar thing, $6.7 billion is the cost of business email compromise attacks annually in the U.S. That's per NASDAQ. So the cost of business email compromise attacks, $6.7 billion. Another sidebar, 63% of survey participants said that their organization had seen check fraud in 2024. Yeah, that for sure. Absolutely. And then it gets into a thing, how to curtail phishing season. And then it gets into replacing cybersecurity assessment tools while working to keep their bank safe. Community bankers have also been working on transitioning to new assessment tools. On August 31st of this year, the FFIEC retired the cybersecurity assessment tool, otherwise known as CAT. It was released in 2015 as a voluntary assessment tool for financial institutions and designed to help them identify risk and evaluate their cybersecurity preparedness. While this is a change, it's a necessary one, says Angelica Dorch, Vice President of Operational Risk and Cybersecurity Policy at ICBA. CAT was developed at a different time for a different threat landscape. The retirement of the tool was necessary in order for us to adapt to the ever-evolving cybersecurity landscape. ICBA has been helping community bankers make the transition from CAT to better options. Instead of using a one-size-fits-all assessment, it's been helping community banks evaluate what's best for their needs. And then that's basically the wrap up there at the end. So again, I think very interesting information here. Obviously, AI is continuing to play a big part in a lot of these fraud and scam schemes that are out there. But having a cyber incident response plan and then practicing that plan every year is just absolutely critical for every bank, every financial institution out there. I mean, just I think, the name of the game, be prepared. The better you're prepared, the better you're able to respond. But keep that in. But also, I think a great suggestion in this article is keep that in-person touch. Make sure that you're talking and training all your employees on this. Make sure you're trying to educate your customers. A lot of the individuals, elder fraud abuse, a lot of your senior citizens, they're the ones that get hit with a lot of these frauds just because, they're older, maybe not paying as much attention. So they need a little bit more help than perhaps some of the younger generation who might be a little bit more with it on some of the crypto stuff and everything else. So again, just very, very good stuff here again in this article. I hope people find this interesting. Again, the importance of having that cyber incident response plan, just absolutely critical. So, all right, well, I will wrap up by saying if you like this episode, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe, as that always helps the channel. Remember, we are on YouTube, Rumble, and all major podcast platforms. Please be sure to leave your comments down below, as I always love getting back to everybody. And as always, make sure to check out some of the other content on the channel. I hope everyone has a great day out there. I will see you again real soon.